Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine. It's September 28th. These are your headlines. First of all, we got a lot of question marks this week because of all this northeast wind. But the best albie fishing we're hearing about is happening in eastern Buzzards Bay. The most reliable bite we're hearing about is in Rhode Island for tog. And the anglers that are getting the most benefit from all this crazy wind are the surf fishermen. Got a lot of good surf reports for striped bass this week. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's New England Fishing Forecast.
The fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
Before we begin, we've got a couple news items for you. First one comes to us from Crafty One Customs, and it's just a quick reminder that the sign-ups for the Rhode Island Tog Classic will close tomorrow night at 11:59 p.m. So you get a little more than a day and a half to sign up. $100 to enter. All the proceeds go to a great cause, the Three Angels Fund, which helps families that are dealing with a cancer diagnosis. Again, awesome cause, awesome time, great tournament. So get over there, sign up, and hopefully we'll see you there at the party. Next thing is going to be a quick rundown of what's going on in the Dreamboat Challenge.
We had one entry in the Dreamboat Challenge this week. The fish was a 2.86-pound sea robin entered by Ken Sparks of Deer Park, New York. That fish stands as the 8th place sea robin. The top 3 remain unchanged. We have Kyle Kraus in 3rd place with 16 points. Eddie Terrabile in 2nd place with 18 points. Bobby Cifarelli still stands at the top of the podium with 24 points. The Dreamboat Fishing Challenge is the Fisherman subscriber-only multi-species fishing competition with a chance to win a 21-foot Steigercraft center console powered by Yamaha, along with many other great prizes. Visit thefisherman.com to subscribe and get all the details so you can be part of the action.
Next thing is the giveaway, which is ongoing, and we haven't been receiving too many photos over the last couple weeks. Not really a big surprise since it's been so stormy, so windy, so rainy, just genuinely ugly outside. But we have gotten a few, and this thing's going to wrap up on October 26th, so you still got a little less than a month to impress me. And really, it's simple. You just got to catch a fish, take a good picture of it, of you holding the fish, and text it to DeAnderson, or send it, email it to DeAnderson@thefisherman.com, or text it to the number on the screen. And on or around October 26th, I'll pick a new winner, and someone is going to win a awesome prize pack from Missouri. So definitely want to check that out and get those photos in as soon as you can.
For more than 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing, that nothing says no to fish bites.
Now we'll start things off in Maine, and prior to the storm coming, things were looking pretty good. There were a lot of fish, smaller fish moving up the rivers, and they were getting some really nice fish out front. That has continued to some degree, but with all this wind, these fish are really starting to move with a little more purpose. And I think once things calm down a little bit, we're probably going to find out that a lot of what was going on has moved past. So if you're up in Maine or up in New Hampshire and you want to get in on some more striper action, especially from the surf, I would make it happen soon, because I think those fish are going to be moving out. I'm not saying it's over. I'm just saying that you're going to see this fish moving with a lot more purpose going forward. Now let's drop down over the border and check in with James Jewkes.
I'm out here this morning at one of our local ponds, up at Plugs Pond in Haverhill. Just waiting for stocking trucks to roll on through. Freshwater guys have been picking up this past week. Some pike have been caught, carp. So definitely feel a fall in the area, that's for sure. It's nice and cool breeze this morning. So all you freshwater guys, get out and do your thing, because this is the time to start really getting it done. As far as out on the beachfront, the striper report, Plum Island was a mess over this weekend again. But if you got out a little pre-storm, you found fish. I heard some reports from a buddy. They had some pretty good fish, up over 40 inches. Myself, I was out in the back bay a few times, and I ran into a few blitzes. The silver sides are just stacked, and they are dropping. So this is it, boys. Get out, get it done. Still plenty of fish going on over in Gloucester and just up into New Hampshire. So there's a ton of that stuff. Saturday morning, I was out with the Plum Island Surfcasters. We had a great time with the juniors. The big winner was one of our little guys. He's a fishaholic, Andrew. He had a fish that was 45 inches. Yeah, it was over 30 pounds. It's his first one that size. Where he normally fishes, it's carp and bass. So that was pretty exciting for him to see a fish of that size. Hope Dave can fit the picture in the report here. Anyways, everything is really going along good. Just got to keep at it, keep fishing. I know there's going to be some serious fishing going on the next month, so just keep at it, guys. You know, this place here is actually really beautiful now. They got this all straightened up, so my little tip of the week is take some trash off the beach or the ponds or wherever you're at. You know, let's police ourselves and make things nice. All right, Dave, that's it from here.
As we kind of leave that area, most of the reports I've been getting from anywhere north of the Cape have been surf reports for guys fishing for striped bass. And by most accounts, it's been pretty darn good. The daytime guys are seeing a lot of fish from like 20 inches to 35 inches or so. A lot of topwater action are also doing well with, you know, paddle tail, soft plastics, and things of that nature. The guys fishing at night are finding some bigger fish. You know, they're hitting 20 pounds with fair regularity, and they are finding some larger fish up into the 30-pound class as well. This is not like, you know, drive anywhere along that shoreline, because we're talking, you know, Gloucester all the way down to the canal pretty much. You know, these are pockets of fish, so you got to target the best areas, but if you're looking for some good starting points, I would start anywhere where you've got an outflow. This is injecting bait into the area, and it's going to give these fish a reason to stop and take a look at what's going on. So definitely want to check there. Crossing over the canal, haven't heard a lot from the you know, the backside of the Cape. Definitely a few stripers moving around up there. I also heard that a rogue pod of albies pushed all the way through the canal and were charging around the outside of Barnstable Harbor. I don't know how long those fish are going to stay there, but that's a unique opportunity, to say the least. And then out on the outer beaches, right before the storm, things were looking pretty good. They were getting some bigger fish. Some were coming from the estuaries, some were coming from the beaches themselves. But fish up into the 20-pound class with a lot more fish in this, you know, in the slot size. Since then, since the you know, all this crazy east wind has happened, water's gotten dirty, the surf's gotten big, and the bite has slowed way down. I haven't heard of anybody fishing out around Monomoy, probably just because it's been so rough out there. There have been some guys getting out to fish off of Nantucket Sound area where it's a little more sheltered. They're finding some albies in there. They've been finicky, although we did see a near Derby record last week, a fish that was just over 20 pounds. That's an impressive fish to be sure. And but by all accounts, you know, the albie bite has been kind of picky out in that area. Have heard some good striper action along the north side of the vineyard and along the south side of the Elizabeths. And then if you push through the Elizabeth Islands into eastern Buzzards Bay, that seems to be the area where the best albie fishing is taking place right now, especially if you get up closer to the canal. You had all this wind coming off the land, so there's not a lot of dirty water up there. It's not nearly as rough, and I think that pocket of clean water has brought in a lot of the albies that were in the area, and they seem to be feeding pretty well. Heading up into the canal, we're not going to hear from East End Eddie this week. He's away, but I talked to a few of my guys that fish down the canal. They said that there's been, you know, a decent amount of stripers at the east and west end, but most of these fish are under 35 inches, and a lot of them are below the slot. So mostly smaller size stripers. However, there are good numbers of albies up in the canal, which is kind of interesting. And you know, you got that shot at getting an albie in the canal, which is not something you can always count on. So That's exciting stuff. You definitely want to make sure you're equipped to fish for striped bass and albies if you're going to fish the canal, because you never know what you're going to find up in there. Also good togging inside the canal, and then as you push out of the canal and go along really both shorelines of the of Buzzards Bay, they're finding lots and lots of tog up in there right now. And the tog fishing has been really good. We haven't heard of anything like gigantic, but lots of keepers, lots of fast action, and that extends pretty much from the end of Stony Point Dike all the way to Westport. So great fishing in there, and that's what I have for you guys in Massachusetts this week. Moving over into Rhode Island, the first thing we got to talk about is the offshore fishing. Last week we said it had been kind of slow, but actually it had just been kept quiet. Out in some of those rougher seas that they had, although not as rough as what we're seeing right now, there was an epic tuna bite taking place out there. A lot of big fish and just big numbers of like wreck-size fish. So, I heard of multiple boats that did like 15 plus fish in a day out there. From like last Wednesday until this storm really started to kick up and things kind of went south. It's anybody's guess as to what's going to happen now. The seas have been very rough out there. As far as I know, no one has been out there. And, chances are this is going to mix things up quite a bit. And so we'll just have to see what happens. Moving back inshore, the other thing that was going on right as this new storm came in, all this northeast wind came in, the albie bite was starting to come back together. We had them in eastern Rhode Island. We had them like off of Newport. I think some guys were getting it from shore. We had a lot of fish around the west wall. We had a ton of fish out west, off of South County, off of Weekapaug and Watch Hill. Since all this wind came in, most of those fish have broken up. So there's still schools of fish around. And, guys are finding them, especially the guys that are fishing in boats that are braving the bigger seas out there. But overall, the albie bite has really tapered off since this 7 days of northeast wind kicked in. And a lot of the shore guys I've spoken to haven't seen an albie in days upon days. So, it's just one of those things. It's fall weather. It's unpredictable, and you just have to take what you get. However, on the other hand, the striper fishing has been phenomenal up along the shorelines here. A lot of good surf fish being taken. A lot of blitzes happening during the day. And we're seeing fish from like 20 inches to 40 inches. A lot of guys doing well after dark with soft plastics, just, going out, fishing the rocks, just fishing the boulder fields. A lot of these fish are being taken on soft plastics. Just throwing them out there and ripping them in quickly. As you're hearing little splashes here behind me, that's mullet. There are mullet coming out of all of these back rivers right now. And that's another really exciting thing that's really going to fire up the striper bite. For a little bit more on what's going on in the eastern half of Rhode Island, let's toss it over now to TJ Kopecky.
Hey guys, nice to be back again, reporting for a little bit of the East Bay, Mount Hope Bay areas. Things have been kind of slow. We all know that. Had a lot of rain. The salinity is off in the water. There's still a bunch of bait hanging around inside of Mount Hope Bay, Narragansett Bay, up into like Barrington Beach, into the Providence River. I had an opportunity to do some fishing on Sunday. We had a little lull in the rain and some of the wind, so we got out of Patuxent Cove on my cousin Chris's boat, and we took a little trip around Prudence Island. We marked tons of bait everywhere. Didn't see any fish on the surface. Saw a couple of birds maybe working, mingling around. We stopped, took a couple of casts, didn't catch anything. We did stop on the west side of Prudence Island because we happened to be out of the wind then with that northeast wind blowing. The one thing that we did do well with, we found a nice little piece of structure, and we jigged up some sea bass, and we did that for about an hour or so. And we headed back in and thought to ourselves, hey, let's stop in the Providence River and see if there's any bait hanging around. So good thing we did. We just happened to find a bunch of bait kind of just stuck in a couple of the corners up near the bike path near the Squantum Club. And hey, lo and behold, we put a couple of casts, and we put some nice bass into the boat. And as we trolled along some of the piers in the deeper waters there, we saw tons and tons of bass, just pretty much stationary in different spots. So we jigged a couple of them up, and then they moved, and we couldn't find them. So they were definitely searching for bait. We had one other area up near Edgewater Marine, and we took a couple of casts up there. We did catch 4 or 5 other bass. They tended to like the bait really slow and low to the bottom. So it made it kind of, it's just kind of difficult. We all know. But there are fish there, and I think going forward, things are going to get better, and all that bait is definitely going to move around with the full moon coming at the end of the month. Ground fishing most likely is going to stay the same inside the bay. I talked to a couple of my buddies who do a lot of ground fishing. They weren't able to get out, so we really don't have any good reports of really what happened. A couple of reports of my buddy from Roger Williams College does some shore fishing over there, and says there's still some good scup from the shore, and he's been doing well on some anywhere from 13 to 15 inch scup. So there are some big scup over there. So if you have an opportunity to get in there, going forward, getting ready for the big Tautog tournament coming up, and I will have the report next week from Florida as I do my annual October trip there for snook fishing. So we'll catch you next week, and tight lines.
And while we're in this basic region, let's take a minute and check in with Coral Aiello.
Hi Dave, Coral here from Sara Star Charters with the Rhode Island Fishing Report. I haven't been out front or out fishing the ocean side for about a week because a lot of this northeast winds has been keeping a lot of us boats at the dock. Weather just hasn't been cooperating, but that has given me a lot of time to fish from shore since I haven't been able to get out. And what I can say is that usually what happens this time of year is a lot of this bait gets pushed into these back bay areas and estuaries where you can find schoolies galore. There's tons of stripers. They pretty much blitz all day. If you find a spot where you can see it holds bait, there's a good chance you'll probably get on a really good schoolie blitz. They're hitting lots of topwater, small plugs, paddle tails, pretty much anything. There's also some smaller bluefish in there mixed in as well. So we're seeing what we normally see this time of year. The last week before this, we kind of had this easterly weather. I was out front, and there are these piles of bass that you don't normally see this time of year. You can still catch big bass, don't get me wrong, but normally these resident fish start to move and they start to chase bait, so it's more sporadic when you run into these piles. But they're sitting out front in these ledges where they've been sitting all summer, so that's pretty cool to see that we're still catching these really big bass, going to spots and seeing that they're still sitting there. I'm not sure when that's going to change. Again, I haven't been out front in a few days, so fingers crossed that they're still out there tomorrow, going out there this week. So the tog bite is definitely picking up. This is the time of year when we kind of all switch gears to ground fishing. Again, you can catch tons of sea bass while you're tog fishing, and the water temperature has definitely gotten a little bit better for the tog. Last week it was around 66, 65 degrees. It's dropped down to about 63, which is a lot better, and this is when you can really start to fully target to tog and catch them first in the shallow waters, because the shallow waters are what cool off quicker. So we're catching them in anywhere 20 to 30 feet. It's a great time to start your tog bite, and we'll just see what happens from here. There's still some albies. The fall run is pretty much just started. It's a great time to fish from shore, grab your waders, grab your surf rod. A lot of the bait gets pushed in, like I said, tons of peanut bunker, bay anchovies. There's just a lot happening out there. I'm not exactly sure what this easterly wind is going to be like for those big bass that were out front, but we are into the fall, and I'm very excited as it progresses.
Now, heading out of the Newport area out toward Point Judith, it's really been Newport to Point Judith where the best togging has been, and it's been really good. Again, we're not seeing a lot of big ones. We're seeing a lot of solid fish, a lot of fish like up to 8 pounds, and lots of limits coming out of Rhode Island waters right now, and the bite just really coming together nice. The fish are shallow. You can get them in 10 to 40 feet of water. I'm sure you can get them deeper than that too, but a lot of these fish are being taken up shallow, a lot of shore fish being taken, and it's been a nice reliable bite during all this crazy weather that we've had. As we said, the West Wall had some really good albie fishing this week. There were also some really nice striped bass being taken from the wall and in the vicinity of the wall. for a little bit more on the tog and some other bottom fishing, let's toss it over now to John Lee from JL Charters.
Haven't been out much at all. We've had this weather, kept all of us in. Pretty annoying. My last trip was a school bluefin trip. We did pretty well, all on chunks. And I'm actually, so I got kind of tuna fever very late in the season. So I'm going to try to get a couple more of these chunk bluefin trips, hopefully next week. And I'd like to go, I'm getting ready to go giant tuna fishing as well. That's a very short window. And then I'm going to start tog fishing. So I'll have hopefully much to say. Anyway, hope all's well. Take care.
Heading west out of the Point Judith area, there were blitzes this week along the South County shorelines. Not every day, not in a reliable spot, just lots of bait, lots of fish moving along the beaches. Not a lot of albies, but a lot of bass and a lot of bluefish. And overall, the action just sounded like it was phenomenal along that stretch, especially for the guys that just drive around with the binoculars and look for birds and then, get in on whatever they can get in on. For a little bit more on that, let's toss it over now to Declan O'Donnell from Breachway Bait and Tackle.
What's going on, everyone? This is Declan from Breachway Bait and Tackle, here with another fishing report from Southern Rhode Island. The fishing down here has been really, really consistent. A lot of nice striped bass coming from the beach and the breachways. Over the weekend, one of the most consistent striped bass fishing I've seen in a while, with swimming plugs off the tip of the breachway and bucktails and swim baits on the inside. Some bluefish still around, not too many. Most of the stripers feeding on peanut bunker and mullet. We really haven't started to see the striper move onto the beach yet, but it should start happening as the water temperature continues to drop. The tautog fishing hasn't been too great with the wave conditions. Not a lot of anglers able to get out there. With the conditions slowly improving, we should expect to see some more anglers starting to get out there.
Jumping over into Connecticut, it sounds like we've seen another wave of bluefish now moving into the race, joining the stripers that have been there for a couple weeks. There's been some pretty nice stripers up in that area, fished well into the 20-pound class, with a few, pushing into trophy category. Now we've got bluefish in there from like 5 to 15 pounds. Guys are getting those diamond jigging. The best way to target those bigger bass is either to three-way a live eel or to fish with a tube and worm. Getting up closer to shore, there's been a lot of surface activity along from the Thames River all the way out to the Connecticut River. And good numbers of fish there. Most of these fish have been on the smaller side, like 25 to 33 inches or something like that. Some bigger fish in the mix. Out on the reefs, they're finding some bigger fish, like up to 40 inches. Guys are getting those on top water and, throwing soft plastics and things like that. As you get up closer to the Connecticut River, the water's been pretty dirty. We've had a lot of rain, which has been coming down and kind of killing the bite in that area. But there's still some fish to be caught if you know where to look. And for a little bit more on that, let's toss it over now to Mike Roy from Real Cast Charters.
Hey, what's up, guys? For this week's fishing report, over the past week, we've had a lot of strong northeast winds and a lot of rain. However, the fishing is still good. Stripers, bluefish, and albies are still feeding. Some topwater blitzes, a lot of small bait around. There is a lack of adult bunker. Surprisingly, haven't really been seeing much adult bunker, so that's thin right now. That's the only unusual concern. But other than that, fishing is good. Stripers have been feeding heavily on peanut bunker and silver sides, and there's albies all throughout Long Island Sound, just moving around quite a bit, but you could definitely get on them, and a lot of bluefish around still. The bluefish has been really good. So get out there and let's hope for some better weather this week.
Take a little short jaunt along the Sound and check in with Matt Stone from Watch Hill Outfitters out in Westbrook.
Chilly days coming in here, so we're going to start to see that water temperature drop pretty quickly. I think we're around the mid to low 60s right now in most spots in the Sound. We're going to still see a lot of the fall action going on, pretty standard fall around stuff out there. Bait, birds. We've had these kind of like back-to-back storms. They've dirtied up the water a little bit, kept those waves a little bit bigger than a lot of us want them. So what we're looking for is stability in the weather conditions. That should definitely help the bite, help reestablish the clarity of the water, help that bait get moving, help those birds see the bait and the fish see the bait, and then on we go. Fish are obviously still feeding in the murkier water, but we really like it clear to kind of get that explosive action that we're looking for. Stripers are still good, blues are still good, should improve as this weather kind of stabilizes. Albies have been pretty sparse in the Sound right now. We're kind of waiting for another wave of fish to hit us. There's been a few out in the Western Sound, a few poking around the Eastern Sound, but the folks of us in the Central Sound, we're kind of waiting for that next wave to hit. So got about a month left still where we kind of expect those fish to be around, so still hopeful that some stability in the weather is going to help that bite. Sea bass has been good. I've heard guys getting limits pretty easily out in pretty deep water, 120 plus. So up your weight, you know, things like that, bait rigs, SK jigs, any slow pitch jigs, things like that. That's the bite right now. I'm hoping to see some more sunshine these next few days and see that fall run continue.
Heading west from here, we've been hearing a lot of good surf reports all along that shoreline, really from like Old Lyme all the way out to Milford. It's been pockets. It's not like the whole shoreline is lit up, but there is some good fishing going on in the area. And the night guys have been talking about doing really well on big needlefish, so that's something you can stick in your back pocket if you're fishing that local area. Before the storm, the blue fishing was really, really good off of Madison and New Haven, and there was good striped bass action in the area as well. Porgy fishing has been incredible across the entire region. It doesn't matter if you're from shore or from a boat. There's just so many porgies in the area right now, and the bite has been on fire. And then heading out further west, Max is getting married this weekend, so join me in congratulating him and Lauren on their holy union. And we'll have to try to get some pictures of his wedding for next week's report. But he told me, he did give me a couple things to talk about. He said that before the storm they had albies in around the Norwalk Islands, but since all this wind came in, they have pushed off. And no one seems to know where they are. The schools have broken up, so guys are finding like the occasional small school, but most of these fish have gone to other places, and no one seems to know where that is. They're getting some sea bass out in like 50 feet of water on some of the wrecks out there. Bass fishing has been best around the mouths of the estuaries and then way up in the back. So things are starting to come together out there. There's a lot of bait, a lot of peanut bunker, probably some mullet pushing out of some of those backwaters as well. But overall, it's been a slower week in the Western Sound, just probably thanks to all this wind. And that's what I have for you guys in the local reports this week. We're going to take a quick flight down to Costa Rica now and check in with what's going on down in Paradise. And that's what I have for you guys in the reports this week. Hopefully you're going to find them useful. If you're not a subscriber to the Fisherman magazine, I highly recommend you head over to our website. That's thefisherman.com. You got enough free content on there to get a full taste of what we offer. We cover everything from Delaware all the way up to Maine. We have fishing reports and articles that cover all that stuff, plus tons and tons of videos on our YouTube channel here. If you're still not interested in that, give us a like and subscribe here on YouTube and hit that little bell thing down there so you get a notification every time we post something new. Appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.